I now request His Excellency Longchen Tshering Tobgay, Honorable Prime Minister of Bhutan, to address the gathering.
Namaskar. I have the honor to convey to you the warm greetings of His Majesty the King of Bhutan, King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk. I want to dive straight into the issue at hand and ask a question. Which is the world's greatest civilization? Which is the world's greatest civilization? And while you think about it, I want to thank Mr. Lakshmikant Pariskar, Chief Minister of Goa, for a very warm hospitality. Beautiful Goa, on which God rested His hand. Peaceful Goa, blessed by Lord Vishnu and Buddha, is ideal for thinking. It generates ideas. I already have an idea. Perhaps I should miss my flight home tomorrow and stay on the beaches of Goa for the next 3 days. Your Excellency, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, it's an honor to meet you again. We met last January, but the first time we met was in Goa. In 2012, when you were Chief Minister, I offered a silent prayer then that I would want to come back. My prayers have been answered. Your Excellency, Mr. Jayant Sinha, it's an honor to meet you. We also met in January, and I look forward to carrying our very deep conversation forward. I'm honored to be in the presence of Venerable Sadhguru Delhi Vasudev. Sadhguruji, I've seen you on YouTube many times. And I have taken teachings, thanks to YouTube, from you. But this is a rare honor to be by your side, Sadhguruji. As indeed it is to be amongst many other learned masters. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. So which is the world's greatest civilization? Why? The world has seen many civilizations and many great civilizations. Think of the Egyptians, the Incas, the Greeks, the Chinese, and of course the Indians. And indeed, we should ask ourselves, which among them, among all the world's civilizations, is the greatest civilization? The Egyptians, they were writing on papyrus 3,200 years ago. They were sending letters to one another 3,200 years ago, and they developed a postal system to do that. But what stands out is the pyramids, a beauty to behold. And still, 3,200 years later, we don't have a clue how they were built. Think of the Incas. They had a sophisticated farming system. They grew more than 70 different crops. Some of them have populated the world. Without the Incas and without the potato that they domesticated, we wouldn't have amjad, aloo paratha, damalu, and without the chilies chili peppers they domesticated and exported to the world, the Indian curry wouldn't be as we expect it to be today. What stands out is quinoa, an ancient grain that is rich in minerals and vitamins and protein, which the United Nations and the Food and Agricultural Organization look to as a source to end world hunger, and which is seen as space food as we venture into the frontier of space. The Greeks, they gave us Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, but what stands out is democracy. Today, about 125 countries are democratic in some form or the other. And the Chinese, they gave us gunpowder that we put to good use over Diwali. They also gave us the compass and the paper. And what stands out is how they use the paper. They printed. They started printing to record information and to disseminate information. And we have the Vedic civilization, the Indian civilization. You gave the world yoga and meditation so that the body and mind is in balance. And if the balance were not to be maintained, then you gave us Ayurveda. But what stands out is mathematics. Countless students have had to suffer trigonometry and calculus and algebra. And you give us the very source of digital India, which is the number 0 and 1. So which among these civilizations is the world's greatest? My answer, my humble opinion, is that it is the Indian civilization. And I will give two answers, two reasons rather. One, and they're interrelated. One, the Indian civilization is the birthplace of the most number of major religions in the world. You have Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. And number two, these religions have coexisted in harmony, borrowing from one another, lending to one another, complementing one another. So these two reasons together, I think, makes the Indian civilization stand apart from all other civilizations in the world. India is the fountainhead of the greatest civilization in the world. We spread the values of love and kindness, compassion and non-violence, and tolerance. This great land is the land of the Buddha and the Mahatma Gandhi, and Masters and Sadhguru. And so it's only natural that India should host an international conference about learning on civilization. I would like to congratulate His Excellency Shri Suresh Prabhu, Railways Minister and President of the India Foundation, for organizing this wonderful conclave and this conference, and also Director Shri Shaurya Gopal for the excellent coordination. But I want to thank especially my friend Shri Ram Ali, because he's the one who invited me to take part in this conclave, and I happily and very quickly accepted. So we are here to learn from civilizations. What to learn from civilization? I think the more important question is what to unlearn from civilizations. And what we must unlearn from civilizations is what has actually destroyed civilizations. Greed, war, lust for power, environmental causing problems in our world today. Today's problems are complex. They are big in scale and multi-generational in scope. Poverty, inequality, climate change, terrorism. I'd like to take a moment to reach out to our brothers and sisters in France. The attacks there were not only on France but on humanity. Our thoughts and prayers go out to families and families. Most of the world's problems, most of these problems, and whether the problems are big or small, appear to have been fueled by consumerism. Today we overconsume. Because we overconsume, we have to overproduce, and because we overproduce, we overextract. This is not a sustainable model for humankind. This is certainly not a sustainable model for Mother Earth. Take the example of phones. In the last 10 years, I think I must have changed my phone 10 times. Never once asking myself if I really needed to upgrade my phone. And never once asking myself, what am I going to do with my old phone that still actually works perfectly well? Some of us carry 2 phones all the time. And some of us carry 2 phones with 2 SIM cards each. The height of consumerism. But look at another extreme, war. It used to be that war had a purpose, war was a means. Today, it seems like war is the end. War is the purpose. War is an industry to fuel consumerism. And why not? Our economic model is based on consumption. GDP is equal to G plus I plus C plus X minus M. That C in there is consumption. If you want to increase GDP, you have to increase C, the consumption. That X minus M in an equation is imports minus exports. Exports minus imports. And if you want to increase GDP, you have to increase X minus M, which means that you have to export consumption. GDP today has become the measure of progress. The higher the GDP, the higher the standard of living, it is understood to be. The higher the GDP, the greater the nation, it is understood. And so there is a rush to increase GDP. A GDP, an economy that is based on consumption. And consumption at this scale can no longer be sustainable. Not sustainable for humankind, and not sustainable for Mother Earth. We need a way out. We need an alternate model. We need to go back to the basics. We need to learn from our civilizations. We need to remember the purpose of civilizations. And that is to create good societies, just societies, societies that will enable the people to pursue well-being and happiness. Allow me to share my experiences in Bhutan. In Bhutan, our development path, the one that we have chosen, is influenced by our culture and by our spirituality, which is Buddhism. Our development path is unique, it is holistic. It strives to carefully balance material growth. This is necessary. But the material growth which is necessary is balanced with social inclusiveness. The material growth which is necessary is balanced with spirituality, which is important. Material growth is balanced with environmental sustainability. And all of this is balanced within the framework of good governance. We call this development philosophy cross-national happiness. Gross national happiness is an approach to development which is holistic, inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. These are important values, and His Majesty the King keeps reminding us that gross national happiness ultimately is development with values. As early as the 1970s, His Majesty the Fourth King pronounced that for Bhutan, gross national happiness is more important than gross domestic product. GNH is more important than GDP. But you must understand that the entire GDP of Bhutan today is about 1.7 billion US dollars. This is about 11,000 crore rupees. So maybe we were compelled to look for an alternate path. But it is G&H, gross national happiness, that has required us to use our limited resources wisely. It is because of G&H that we have social inclusiveness. Education is totally free, primary level, secondary level, and for those who work hard at the tertiary level. But education does not mean just modern education, it also means monastic education and traditional education. Similarly, healthcare is free, not just consultation, but even medication. And not just modern medication, but traditional Buddhist medication at all. It is G&H, because of G&H, that our environment is largely pristine. Our constitution requires that 60% of our country is kept under forest cover. Today it is 72%. 72% of our country is under forest cover. More than half our country is protected, and protected by law, as they are national parks, nature reserve, wildlife sanctuaries, and biological corridors. Biological corridors link one park to the next. As a result, we are a hotspot for biodiversity. An example I can give you is that this year we counted 103 tigers, which is an increase of about 33% over the last time we counted. But what's more interesting is these tigers, our tigers, roam from the foothills of the Himalayas all the way above 4,000 meters above sea level. Tigresses with cubs have been spotted at 4,200 meters above sea level. I want to congratulate India as well, because the tiger count in India has increased. Today you have 2,226 tigers, an increase of 30% in the last 3 years. In 2009, Bhutan declared that we would be carbon neutral. A few other countries have since declared that they will become carbon neutral. Think about what this means. There's no country in the world that is carbon neutral. Each and every country is producing more greenhouse gases than they can sequester. Think about what it means to Mother Earth. In Bhutan, we may not be carbon neutral, we are actually carbon negative. Our forest cover sequesters 6.3 million tons of carbon dioxide each year. We generate only 2.4 million tons. And so we are a net carbon sink of about 3.9 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. Because of G&H, our culture is thriving. We have a unique culture, which is blossoming. Our spirituality is alive. We are the only Vajrayana country in the world. Vajrayana was also born in the Indian civilization. Because of G&H, we have good governance. And here again, we have a unique narrative. Our people did not fight for democracy. Our people did not demand for democracy. There was no civil war. Democracy was introduced in the most unprecedented, in the most unlikely manner. It was imposed by our kings against the will of our people. But today, we have strong democratic institutions, we have the checks and balances, and we have good governance. And because of G&H, our economy may be small at $1.7 billion. Our economy may be small, but it is clean, green, and renewable. Agriculture is almost entirely natural, and we are making efforts to make it all organic. Tourism is highly regulated. We have a high value, low volume tourism policy so that it did not affect our environment and our culture. Excellency Manokar warned us about the dangers of excessive tourism a while ago. And we have energy, renewable energy. Hydropower is the centerpiece of our cooperation, our economic cooperation with India. Today we generate collectively about 1,600 megawatts of electricity. About 80% of that is exported to India. And that 80% which is exported to India offsets about 6 million tons of carbon dioxide in India each year. But our two governments, we are working on 3,000 megawatts, which will be ready by 2017, 2018. This 3,000 megawatts of electricity power, when exported to India, is going to offset at least 11 million tons of carbon dioxide in India every year. So by 2018, we will be offsetting India and Bhutan together 17 million tons of carbon dioxide in India every year. But there is more, because our total potential is 30,000 megawatts. If we were to develop 30,000 megawatts and we were to export at least 80% of it to India, and we wouldn't need electricity, in fact we'd be exporting much more. But 80% of the electricity that we actually generate could offset as much as 112 million tons of carbon dioxide in India every year. The state of Gujarat, highly industrialized, in 2013 generated just 150 million tons of carbon dioxide in that year. And so together, by being faithful to the G&H principles and ideals, we are able to cooperate, our two governments are able to cooperate, generate much needed renewable energy, and in the process offset huge amounts of carbon dioxide in India. So G&H drives development in Bhutan. In Bhutan we take G&H very seriously. It pervades through all our policies. And our constitution does not mix its word. By constitution, the state shall strive to promote those conditions that will enable the pursuit of cross-national happiness. So this becomes our constitutional responsibility. But the Center for Bhutan Studies has defined, and the government has now accepted, 9 domains of happiness. 9 domains in different areas that are conditions of happiness in Bhutan. These are health, education, and living standards. These 3 are quite straightforward. The environment and good governance is now gaining currency the world over. But we have time use, psychological well-being, community vitality, and cultural diversity as important aspects of conditions to cross-national happiness. These 9 domains are actually measured, and the Center for Bhutan Studies has recently concluded a study. These 9 domains create a balance between subjective and objective conditions of happiness. a balance between material and immaterial, a balance between consumption and conservation, a balance between the individual and the community, and a balance between the present and future generations. But the question is, are we happy? And according to the survey that the Center for Bhutan Studies recently conducted, it appears that our people are generally satisfied with the conditions leading to GMH across the domains. 91.2% of our people are satisfied with half the domains, at least half the domains. This is a huge exercise. 8,000 people were interviewed over 2 hours each, covering 148 questions. So I don't know how anybody could be happy at the end of the survey, but like I said, 91.2% of those interviewed said they were satisfied with at least half the domains. But there were lessons for government. We found that urban Bhutan is more happy than rural Bhutan. We found that men were happier than women. We found that spirituality was in decline slightly, but still we must take note of it. And we found that perhaps democracy had brought in divisive politics. And this is something that we in Bhutan must address together. But one lesson we learned is that the government can create those conditions, but the government cannot do it alone. We need others, we need CSOs and we need businesses. And this is why in Bhutan, we are looking for businesses that can champion cross-national happiness. And this is why outside Bhutan, I look for businesses that can champion cross-national happiness. Businesses that are true to the ideals of cross-national happiness, about doing business with values, about doing business that's clean, about doing business that is respectful of communities and the environment. And so if there are any businesses who want to champion cross-national happiness, either by working with the Center for Bhutan Studies in Bhutan or in investing in Bhutan, we must get together because we will have a lot to talk about. So this is Bhutan's experience, but we are still learning. The world is taking note. Europe has the Beyond GDP initiative, which is similar. The OECD has an ongoing exercise in measuring what we treasure, to measure what we treasure. And 20th of March is declared as International Day of Happiness by the United Nations. So even the United Nations has embraced cross-national happiness. There's much to learn from every civilization. This conclave is taking place at a critical time, a time when the world is seeking for an alternative paradigm. I'm confident that the learned masters here, the scholars and experts gathered here will put your ideas and will produce an outcome over the next few days that will benefit not just India, but the world. We must learn from civilizations, all of them, from small civilizations to big civilizations, from civilizations that are near to those that are from far. And we must support one another, and we must seek wise leadership. Only then we can foster new civilizations that will empower citizens to fight poverty, fight inequality, fight terrorism, fight climate change, and build a good and just society. But remember to pay special attention to the Indian civilization, not just because it is your civilization, our civilization, but because it is the world's greatest civilization. Thank you and bless you.